Hey ratbags, it's Jade taking a look again at more info about Subnautica. It's a little bit old this one, but I did want to give my opinion on what we'd found out last week from Krafton's end of year financials. Keep it brief and short, Krafton have released some info about where they see their release of games coming in the next couple of years. Last time we saw this, it was confirming that I had told you guys that Subnautica 3 would be launching in 2024-2025. Well, that window has now been shortened even further, and it looks like we will have to wait until 2025 for Subnautica, the next game. However, there is some hope that actually it may be dropping a lot sooner if you take on board whether or not they're actually talking about full launches of their games, especially considering a lot of their graphics show that their games will be launched on console at the same time. So that's what we're going to discuss today, and just a recap of everything we do know from developers' tweets and the info they've provided directly. Let's go. So, Krafton, obviously they're the publishers that own Unknown Worlds. They bought them out a few years ago. They've got over 30 different games coming out in the next couple of years, a massive increase from the 5 that they had in 2023. They plan to go really big in terms of publishing other games as well, so they're not all going to be just made by them. And yep, Subnautica is listed once more. It's going to be targeting a launch of the first half in 25. So boo, we're not going to play another Subnautica game till then. Well, the idea is that possibly they'll be going into early access earlier, and this actually represents the full launch of the game, hence why they've got the console signed for it, and that's the positive way of thinking on it. I have to be honest, I'm not 100% convinced, but there are some tweets from devs that maybe hint at the game actually launching into early access just like the previous two, and that could be as very soon as like the beginning of 2024. They've obviously been looking for people to come and work for them for a number of time now. April last year, they made it known they were looking for a senior narrative designer. And we know that as soon as Below Zero came out, they were already talking and thinking about conceptually what the next game could be. Back in April this year, some of the devs working for Unknown Worlds were tweeting and reminiscing about future and past projects. Liam Tarr, one of the lead artists on Subnautica series, I do believe, will have tons of stuff to show for the next Subnautica game. No, can't say when, but it's going to be awesome. And when someone commented asking whether or not the next game will be in early access when it's stable, Oberax, obviously another developer working for Unknown Worlds, tweeted something a little bit funny, maybe. So that has got most people assuming that whatever happens with the sequel, we're going to get maybe a big early access period. And so that could mean it starts to launch at some point pretty much now until obviously any point next year. The pessimist in me says, well, actually, it might be just early access launch and we're going to have to wait for that until 2025. They had a similar timeline between the first game and Below Zero. And yeah, it's been 2.5 years since Below Zero actually came out. By start next year, obviously it won't be that far from free, and that would be the perfect time to maybe launch your next game in Subnautica series. But will it be a direct sequel? So yep, it was 9 months ago I told you guys it wouldn't maybe release for a while. That was with the financial reports coming from Krafton for then. But we did get confirmation that multiplayer was going to be a focus. Okay, maybe focus is too strong a word, but at least it will be included, given Charlie Cleveland is one of the founders of Unknown Worlds and worked on the original. His reply on my video talking about some of this stuff last year was, I wish we could have given you multiplayer for Subnautica and Below Zero, but I'd be very surprised if we didn't have it in the next one. So now the question is, what kind of multiplayer game will it really be then? I've always kind of had the impression it might be a live service based one, and I still have this kind of idea that it won't just be the one planet we'll be returning to, but maybe multiple planets that we'll be exploring. Take that with a heavy dose of salt. It was various little interviews that honestly I couldn't even find now if I wanted to, but maybe the devs were kind of talking in general about the worlds they could possibly explore or craft or make, rather than figuratively actually talking about different worlds they're going to make. It might have even been part of one of the job applications where they were talking about it. But again, they could have also been talking about their Moonraker game, which obviously did end up coming out a little while ago. And that's maybe where they got the idea about multiple worlds. So basically, I can't guarantee and I don't know. What I do know is that Krafton, makers of PUBG, if you hadn't realised or recognised the name, they're obviously in the publishing game. And publishers want money. Unknown Worlds have kind of had a bit of a bust with their latest game. Moonraker has kind of failed, and Charlie Cleveland, the creator of it, who's been working on it for a long time, has kind of admitted that it just hasn't performed as well as he'd hoped. So Unknown Worlds have had great success with multiple versions of the original game and the sequel or semi-sequel Below Zero across multiple platforms on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, etc. But a lot of that stuff has obviously meant they've spent a lot more money on porting them over, and they've been a studio that's been running for a number of years now. Like it or not, we do need some sort of perpetual money to help some of these studios carry on making. It can't just be off the basis of one purchase now, especially when some of these games have always been early access and then even at full release pretty cheap. Now, I'm not expecting it to become a looter shooter and have 20 billion skins and all this kind of stuff, but I could well envision that they would have a multiplayer extract or focus where you could go and explore different realms, you could go and explore different parts of the planets, and these could be introduced in different seasons. Not all live service games have to have battle passes and stuff like that, but they do have to have reoccurring content with maybe DLC packs that we'd buy alongside it. Obviously PUBG ended up going free to play in the end, and obviously they've been getting by on their microtransactions. So yeah, Subnautica's maybe not the perfect fit for that at the moment, but if they do ever add more than just the bog standard up to 4 player kind of co-op feel like Sons of the Forest has got or Green Hell, etc., then that is something I could see them envisioning doing. And could explain why they're not going to the effort of just calling it a direct sequel. So it's not Subnautica 3, it's not Subnautica just on its own, it's going to have some big byline underneath it to really emphasise it's a different type of Subnautica game. Obviously not too crazily different, otherwise I don't think people would really be into it. Certainly it's got to have the survival and exploring underwater as the main focus. But we know they've wanted to do other biomes and stuff. Obviously the Below Zero was kind of the test bed for that, and that was originally made out of cut content for the original game. Zooming around the ice escapes and stuff was fun and interesting, but a lot of players felt like it lost a bit of the fear. I think you could still have that if you did decide to do something a bit different. Imagine exploring ruins in a desert or an Aztec style jungle temple with great big viney Cthulhu style monsters and tentacles grabbing at you as you go. But then we really are in the realms of it not being a true Subnautica sequel and something just very different with its name slapped on it. That's why I feel like the focus on having something where they can explore multiple parts of the planet, multiple worlds perhaps even, as something that resonates. It gives players that really just want that water experience, and maybe they'll have that in part of the world and game. And then obviously for players that want something a bit fresh and a bit more newer, they'll hopefully have that. Again, all kind of speculation on my part, but that's just what I assume or think could happen. It's a lot easier to monetize live service games or make them into live service when they've got a big multiplayer component like this and you are visiting multiple locations. So there we go. The confirmed news is, yes, Subnautica is definitely coming out in 2025. We don't know if it's going to be the full game or if it's going to be an early access launch. We do know it's going to have some sort of multiplayer component. We don't know exactly how many players or what that will look like. They have looked in the past for players with experience with live service, but that could have been attributed to their other game, Moonraker. But Craft and their publisher will clearly be wanting the next sequel to make a lot of money, and that's how you do it with live aspect services, even if it's just DLC packs and stuff. Which I've got no problem supporting because I think Unknown Worlds are great. They've made some classic games in the survival genre or just gaming genre in general. And although they've been a bit poor performing on console in the past, they've done a lot of work with quality of life for almost years afterwards, namely the most recent giving a nice big dose of TLC to the original game. So I'd quite be happy if they did decide to release some packs and stuff. I would totally support it if the next one is as good quality as the previous two. So let me know your thoughts on it. What do you want from Subnautica? Do you just want that simple single player experience again with no heavy dialogue? Are you excited about the possibilities of new ways to play and possibly playing it with your friends? Let me know in the comment section. And as always, the home of Survival Games news. I'll see you ratbags later.